Good evening and welcome to the Marcellus Central School District Board of Education meeting for tonight, Monday, June 1st, 2020. At this time, I would ask that everyone please stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda, 3.1 presentations, 2020 project update. Mrs. Brantner.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, I just wanted to share some progress pictures with all of you so that you're able to see how things are progressing. One of the newest updates is that we're beginning the process, the window process, and that starts with removal and caulk, removal of the windows and removal of caulk. The caulk is asbestos containing. So you can see the preparation for that in the courtyard series of windows. Those windows will be pulled, the caulk will be abated, and they will be boarded up until the windows come to be replaced. Obviously, we can't do this everywhere, but because this is an interior wall, we can actually get started on that part. So the abatement contractors are beginning to mobilize today. The second slide, and there's several to follow, show the business office, district office area, which is the first area that we captured because the ceilings were all asbestos plaster and had to be removed and abated. You can see now this is the putback process. So we've gone from ugly to much better looking. We have the carpet installation that has happened. You can see ceilings and also paint happening as well, lighting replaced. Again, more views of the carpet, the paint, the ceilings, and lighting. And then I don't know if we can all think way back to August and September when we had that very bizarre mercury contamination in our mailroom at DMS, and we had to actually cordon off that area and remove all of the flooring and have abatement of the mercury contaminated flooring done. And so finally that has been replaced with some new tile. You can see that process is nearly complete. There's still base to go on, but the tile was laid on Friday night. And again, more pictures in the district and business office. And something that's a really neat historic element in the DMS building in the office area, the original to the building from the 30s is brass. It's a brass border around the wood base next to the floor, the wood trim, and that brass was all restored by our maintenance crews, and they have been reinstalling it. This picture definitely does not do it justice, so I look forward to having you come back and check out how beautiful that looks. A nice historic original element that we were able to retain and bring back to its original beauty. In addition, I just wanted to show a little bit more of the sort of the ugly part of the process. This is an abatement containment area under the old gymnasium where they're still working on some abatement down there. And you can see what a containment looks like because usually you're not around when these things are happening. And if you've done any walking through the campus, you can see that they are at work up on the upper DMS field, beginning the drainage process that will help to capture and slow down the water running down from the hill and hopefully help us to stop having flooding that we were having in the DMS basement. As anticipated, they're finding some rock. So here's a nice pile of some of the rocks that have already been located in the digging. So you'll see that if you're on campus at all walking by. And that is it for progress pictures.
I forgot to mention opening the meeting that I just want to thank everyone for joining us virtually once again for our Board of Education meeting this evening. You will have the opportunity to share comments under both resident comments sections of our agenda. You can do so by sending your comment to a special email address that is listed on your screen, comments@marcellaschools.org. We will display the current slide listing the email address unless we are presenting other information. Please send your comments at any time during the meeting. Once we arrive at the resident comments second section of the meeting, we will read any comments that we have received. Mrs. Brandner, budget vote process update presentation.
I'll actually turn you over to Tony Sinaccio. He's really done an outstanding job working through a very challenging situation, and he would like to give some updates on that process.
So after a bit of envelope stuffing and delivering to post offices and things of that nature, ballots finally started showing up in resident homes this Saturday. I know I received mine. I'm in 13215, 13108, 13110. I was told today also arrived in their mailboxes on Saturday. So I'd like to share with folks what the community will find on our website. We've done our best to put together what the process will look like once ballots have been returned and once June 9th arrives. What's going to happen with those ballots once it's time to open them at 5 p.m. on June 9th. And so we have here this section on the budget portion of our webpage where folks can read about the absentee ballot process. The reason we're providing this information for folks is that there are concerns with the absentee ballot process, primarily from what we've heard about the confidentiality of the absentee ballot. And so when folks complete the ballot, they insert the ballot into an envelope where they have to write their name and address and sign the back of it. And so we have folks that are concerned that we might identify the individual and what they chose to vote. There's a prescribed process that we have to follow. The entire process is overseen by an elections inspector from the Onondaga County Board of Elections. So it's really quite simple. Once that absentee ballot envelope is opened, we pull the ballot out. It's not unfolded, and that's the requirement that we'd have to adhere to, is that we do not unfold that ballot, set it off to the side, and with a pile of I'm predicting 3,000 to 4,000 absentee ballots. So it's going to be a long, laborious process, and we really aren't interested in seeing what folks have voted. So as I said earlier, it's a prescribed process, and could take a while. It all depends on how many ballots we receive, whether or not we're able to complete the process by the end of Tuesday evening. I would think that we will, but time will tell. So if you do have any questions about the ballot or the vote or any of the other information on the ballot, visit our website. Michelle and the rest of our team have done a great job providing as much information for folks as possible. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to Michelle.
Item number 4 on the agenda, recognition. Mrs. Brandner.
Sure, just a few things. Obviously, I'm used to giving all this fantastic recognition for all the wonderful accomplishments of our students, and I guess I'll save our students and families for last. I just continue to be impressed with our food service department. They're working hard to keep kids in need fed, and I appreciate their efforts under the leadership of Donna Rice. In addition, the administrative team and their office personnel have been working really hard to stay connected with families and try to make this as smooth a process as possible. Admittedly, we're all working hard to try to figure this out together, and I appreciate their leadership, and I'm sure that families do too. Tony, who just got done talking about all of this, the detail around the ballot process and the security of the ballots, I have to give a huge thanks to Tony and to the team of people that he gathered from the office personnel, but also teaching assistants and aides that came in to support him in preparing all of these things for mailing. It was a huge undertaking. I don't remember how many pounds of mail we had to ship off. 400 pounds of mail, Tony's reminding me. But it was a huge undertaking, and his attention to detail, I think, has helped make the process a successful one so far. And again, I encourage you to take a look at the resources, both an FAQ document and a video that he put together explaining not only how to fill out the ballot, but also how we're ensuring security and anonymity of votes. So a big thank you to him and his team. Last but not least, our families and our students, and especially our senior class. I know that none of you asked for this. I can tell you for sure, we didn't either. And we appreciate all of the hard work you have put forth in persevering, but also for understanding and supporting us, probably even at times when you would rather not. We're in an incredibly challenging situation together, and I continue to be thankful that we have the community that we have, that we stick together, that we talk to each other, and it makes a difference. I know that I know at least our families and probably our teaching staff are really looking forward to having a little bit of break later in June. So thank you all for your hard work and for sticking with us.
Next item on the agenda is resident comments. Public expression at Board of Education meetings, even virtually, is encouraged, and a specific portion of the agenda shall provide for this privilege. In most instances, the board shall reserve judgment regarding questions and concerns that are brought to the board's attention at a board meeting, as it is typically not prudent for the board to make instantaneous determinations. In addition, many issues that are brought to the board's attention do not require a formal determination by the board, but rather are most appropriately addressed by the superintendent or persons designated by the superintendent without further board action, in accordance with policy 3220. Once again, I invite anyone that might have a comment to submit a comment electronically to the email address that is on your screen. Item number 6, business. 6.1, authorization for superintendent to enter into an agreement for building condition survey services. Resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with King & King Architects for building condition survey services. As per policy 5410, the Board of Education is opting to dispense with the solicitation of requests for proposals for professional architectural services based on a determination and recommendation that it is in the best interest of the district to utilize the most recently appointed architectural firm to perform the 2020 building condition survey. Board members, I would ask that if you make a motion or a second, and when we do get to voting, that you please identify yourself by name so that I know who's making the motion. Do I have a motion?
Patty, I'll move.
Janine,
Second.
second. Janine.
Janine, any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye, Patty.
Hi, Tom.
Aye, Janine.
Hi, Kelly.
Aye, Michael. Margie.
Margie just said it too.
All, any opposed? Carried. Item 6.2, authorization for the superintendent to enter into an intermunicipal agreement to provide for the assignment of officers of the Marcellus Police Department to serve as school resource officers. Resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with the Village of Marcellus for the assignment of officers of the Marcellus Police Department to serve as school resource officers for the 2020-21 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved, Tom.
Second,
Second, Kelly.
any questions or discussion? I have a question, Michelle. In the event that school does start physically in the buildings, the officers would be here. If we were to go back into an online situation, there's no need for the resource officers at that time, or to a lesser degree?
Yeah, to a much lesser degree. We actually had a meeting, the officers and I and the chief of police the other day, and we will be utilizing them for a couple of things between now and the end of the school year. But in reality, there's very little for them to be here doing. So they're not here at this time.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Michael, aye.
Margie, I. We didn't
Kelly,
vote.
aye.
Janine,
aye.
I.
Any opposed? Carried.
Hey, Mike, Michael,
Yes,
I don't think there was a motion for that vote.
There was.
yeah,
Go on.
Tom made the motion and Kelly
Okay.
seconded.
All right, I lost my mind there for a moment.
Okay.
And I'm voting aye. I don't know if I got that there.
Item 6.3, authorization for the superintendent to enter into an agreement for the sale of real property. Resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with C3MF Developers for the sale of the Casson Road School. May I have a motion?
Patty, yes.
Second,
Kelly, second.
Kelly? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Michael, aye.
Patty, I. Margie, I.
Kelly, aye.
Janine, I.
Opposed? Carried. Item 7, personnel. Resolved that the following personnel items be approved. You can see items 7.1 through 7.3 on the agenda. May I have a motion?
Motion,
Patty,
Kelly.
Okay. Kelly got it.
Second,
Patty,
any discussion? All those in favor? Michael, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Patty, I.
Tom, aye.
Margie, I.
Opposed? Carried. Item A, consent agenda. Resolved that the consent agenda consisting of the following items be approved. You can see those again, 8.1 through 8.4. May I have a motion?
Motion, Margie.
Second,
Margie,
Janine.
second Janine. Any discussion or comments? All those in favor? Michael, aye.
Patty,
Kelly,
I.
aye. Kelly,
Aye.
aye.
Margie, I.
Janine,
Opposed?
I.
Carried. Item 9, information items, COVID-19 updates.
So just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. I know that there's a lot of sadness and sorrow that we're all sharing right now regarding graduation. And just a reminder that there are 3 things that Mr. Durkee and I created and put out One was just a video of him and I sort of previewing what was to come. And then a letter sent to families of members of the senior class, along with a Q&A document, hopefully covering most of the questions people might have. You know, some of that information repeated in the letter, but it's sometimes a little bit easier to read when it's formatted like a question and answer. I think there's still some questions I'd like to add a little emphasis to, if you will. So I'm going to include that in this update today. There was a lot of talk about why we can't have an outside ceremony. Mr. Durkee and I actually had two plans that we put together. The second was doing a ceremony outside at the stadium. And I think the possibility of that happening in June was dashed once we received guidance from the county. And in speaking with the county officials, their feeling was that unless you're putting off a graduation till July and even better August, you would be unlikely to be able to have that many people gathering. Even though our gathering would be less than 1,000 people, it was still, I mean, we have school districts that have, 40 graduates, in our region that are part of our BOCES, and they're in the same boat that we are. In fact, they were thinking that they would be able to go ahead with an outdoor ceremony due to the size of their graduating class, and that's just not the case. We had put together a fairly detailed plan to do that. We just aren't allowed to do that. The second is that, as I talk about our interfacing with county officials, I certainly in no way want to be disparaging. I think we are all dealing with a very incredible situation, one that's changing rapidly. What we think is going to happen one day, we find out, a week or two later that that's not going to happen. And I know that they're in the same boat that we are. So some statements have been made about the possibility of using NBT Bank Stadium or the Amphitheater. Those were offered, but they're offered at the point at which we could have graduations with large gatherings outside, which would be, possibly during the later summer months or possibly not at all. I think Mr. Durkee has said it best when he's told me on multiple occasions, hope isn't a great strategy sometimes. And I hate to say that because I think we all need a little hope, but our concern is that kicking this can down the road may result in having nothing. And that is completely unacceptable to us. I would rather put a plan forward and move ahead with that plan to find out even a day before we implement that everything's changed and the rules have changed and they've loosened things up and we can go ahead, because I'm very confident that Mr. Durkee and I could pull a rabbit out of the hat pretty quickly. I would love to say I'm hopeful that that will occur. I'm not terribly hopeful. So another question could be, well, why aren't we waiting? If there's a thought we could do this in the summer, why aren't we waiting? And my concern there is that we have, 135 students with different plans. Some are entering the work world right away and will actually be able to work even under the restrictive conditions we have. Colleges are making plans in some cases to bring students back early. And I'm concerned about what that could look like. And we do have students entering the military. I just can't ensure that we would have the situation where our class could actually be together for a graduation ceremony. And so we felt like we had to comply with the guidance that we were given and try to make the best of it. We certainly did push the limits of that guidance and actually ended up contacting our school attorney to vet our plan. One of the pieces of guidance is that family members not exit the vehicles. And we discussed our plan with our school attorney and how we were going to ensure proper practices and staying within the executive order of the governor of no more than 10 people in a non-essential gathering. And she was in support of the plan that we had and moving it forward. The other piece of controversy is about handing seniors their diplomas. The guidance is very clear that we are not to physically hand a diploma to seniors. And part of the reason for that is that seniors would not be required to wear masks for photo opportunity purposes. We feel like we have a way to create the proper social distance and have a photographable handoff while still complying with those requirements. And again, my hope is that things, rapidly change and, we fly through the phases without any concern. But again, I have concerns about sort of hanging our collective hats on that possibility. So I know there's a lot of folks that want this to be different. You can count John Durkee and I among those folks. Not only would be much easier for us to put together a traditional ceremony, it's also much better. And unfortunately, we're just not in a position to be able to do those things. And my hope is that folks out there don't question, where our hearts are. This is extremely challenging for us as well. We both got into this business because we love kids and, nothing better than celebrating a graduation. So it is our goal to make our mini ceremonies as meaningful and heartfelt as possible. And, if there are other questions that come up, I'll continue to put out information to try to answer those questions. As a public school educator, I do have a responsibility to follow the guidelines that I'm given and not just go rogue and sort of do whatever I want. I mean, that's part of what this job is about. You can push and challenge, which I have, but at the end of the day, if you're given a directive, you follow the directive. Hopefully that's some more helpful information. In addition, just to note about the ceremonies at NBT Bank or the Amphitheater, there is a price tag with both of those. Another district looked into the Amphitheater. I believe he shared with me that the cost of using the Amphitheater is $40,000, and that comes with no amenities. You would have to bring in all of your own equipment, sound system, seating, anything that you wanted to have there would have to be brought in. So that would be logistically extremely challenging. NBT Bank Stadium, I think, is running about $5,000, but a lot of it depends on setups that you might need and so on and so forth. Again, our stadium could handle socially distanced graduation if we were able to bring that many people together. I see Margie's hand is raised. So Margie.
I think I read on something, you mentioned a car parade or something through the village. Could you tell, what are you thinking on that?
So John was working with Mayor Curtin to come up with a plan, and we tabled not doing one, but we tabled the planning when we had to finalize. We finally got guidance from the county about graduation. So we really needed to finalize this plan and get all of our ducks in a row and get all the communication out. So I'm guessing this week we'll have more details out. What we were thinking about was having seniors meet in a place in their vehicles and then having a car parade, map out a route with their cars decorated, and community members could be on their porches or in their yards along the route so that they're staying in their own households, if you will, and the seniors are remaining in their cars. We wanted to simulate the senior walk that we've done through campus. So I imagine that will continue the planning. Like I said, we had to table going any farther with those details with everything else that was going on. And today,
that's a really nice idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. And the mayor has been wonderful, and he is in full support of putting something together. So it'll happen. So the next little tidbit, and then I'll be done here. We have just some dates. These have been out. I'll continue to put them out until people are sick of hearing about them. But we are doing materials exchanges for seniors, grades 7 through 11 and grades K through 6. Those will happen on the dates here. So the 11th will be just for seniors so that we can really spend the time needed to make sure they have their caps and gowns and yearbooks. And I think there's a couple of surprises in store for them, which will be fun. And they deserve to have their own day to, come to the campus in their vehicles and give their Chromebooks and supplies and get the things that we have for them. In addition, 7th through 11th graders will happen the next day, and then that's a Friday. And then on Monday for students in grades K through 6. And then I also posted the last day for class, putting that in quotes, to happen. And then summer vacation begins. So like I said, I'll keep these dates out there for anyone that is missing them in the previous communications. The last piece is my biggest question after graduation is, are we coming back in the fall? My crystal ball broke probably 2.5 months ago. I am super hopeful. That is something I'm going to have hope for. And I wanted to just let everyone know that there's a timeline to this as well. There are 2 advisory groups working at the state level. One is a committee put together by the governor. The other is a committee put together by the state education department. I think they both want to be the ones that sort of have a say over what school looks like in the fall. My hope is that they will work together and we will get some cohesive guidance. Right now, that guidance is promised to school districts by the end of June. Again, we're building the plane while it's being flown. So I anticipate there being a change in when we get that guidance, but I'm hoping it'll be earlier in June rather than in July. At this point, we're told that schools will be required to submit plans based on that guidance in July. So my plan is that we will put together a draft based on the advisory group work and the guidance we're given. And then we will have a committee comprised of staff and parents that will vet that draft and improve the draft before we submit it and hopefully enact it in September when our students return. And my last note is more to come.
All set.
Yes, thank you.
Item 10 on the agenda is our second resident comment section. At this time, I notice that there are no resident comments on our email feed. So we move to adjournment. Resolved that the Board of Education meeting for tonight, Monday, June 1st, 2020, be adjourned. May I have a motion?
Motion,
Motion.
Janine.
Oh, second, Margie.
Who was the first?
Who was the first?
Janine.
Janine, yep.
Janine, second Margie. Time is 7:32. All those in favor?
Aye,
Michael,
Patty.
aye.
Patty, aye.
Tom.
Patty and Tom and Mike.
Kelly, I.
Margie, aye.
Janine, aye.
Opposed? And carried. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.